because I do 1,300 crunches and sit-ups 4 times a week.
What's a dose? Can you translate for us?
Winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Ernie Els.
I wanted to push back hard because I know Hoff's going to ride hard for the Princess Grant curry gravy, but I've been pretty disappointed with it for most of the times that I've been there. And most of the time, they actually don't even have curry gravy and pies. So Hoff, I'm just going to put that out there to start you off.
It's a good segue because I've got a lot to say about that, but in due course.
Before you go, Jacques, what would be your top 3? What's up there for you?
Are we talking pie and curry gravies, or are we talking halfway houses?
No, we're talking halfway houses.
now. So yeah, I mean, maybe just to give a bit of context while we're talking about this, the SA Golf Top 100 website, which was born out of the Golf Digest Top 100 courses in SA that used to come out every second year, they recently brought out the top 50 halfway houses in South Africa. And I think in the top 3, it was Blair Athol at 1, St. Francis Links. Sorry, not St. Francis Links. It was Fancourt Links at 2, and I think Leopard Creek was also there in the top 3. Sorry, I don't have my computer open, but I'm pretty sure those were the top 3. I have to agree with the Blair Athol halfway house that that was an unbelievable halfway house experience. Samola's got a pretty sweet halfway house. I was surprised that didn't get a bit more traction in the top 50. And then also surprised to see some halfway houses which I don't think are that great in the top 50. But certainly I think Blair Athol on the Crocodile River there with a sort of buffet, you only ever you've generally got that halfway house to yourself. It's pretty incredible.
Where is Blair Athol?
It's close to the Lanseria Airport. Scary Players old property. It's like
that's on the Crocodile River.
I think it's like a different Crocodile River.
Jeez, I'm like, where the hell? I was in like Joburg.
I think it's another Crocodile River.
Yeah, no, it is. I didn't go to the halfway house there, but that's where they had the SA Open last year. But Jacques, okay, so we jumping across now, but we did. So the idea for this podcast was we were going to talk about, based on that article, we were going to just talk about halfway houses in KZN, as just because that's, I guess, our locale. So I mean, maybe your quick take before your nappy changing duties. Have you got kind of a hot list there?
Well, first I'm going to use it as a bit of a soapbox. There's nothing worse than halfway houses where you get there, then order food, and then sit around and wait for 15 minutes for your food to come, and then try and rush through it, and then carry on and get onto the course and try and pay with other guys coming in. So I think it's egregious, any halfway house that you trying to order and then wait for a long time while they cook it. I think all halfway houses should be a sort of buffet. They should have it open. You should pick what you want from the buffet or from some samis that they can quickly toast. There shouldn't be a sort of a la carte menu at any halfway house. So that's my first little soapbox moment.
I agree.
Then, I think for halfway houses in KZN, Champagne Sports has got a pretty insane halfway house. Again, it's a la carte, but there is someone calling in your choice, sort of at the sort of a couple of holes before you come in. So I would say Champagne's up there. Gowrie's got a nice system. You order at the first, and a beautiful view there with that sort of massive wraparound clubhouse that they've got there. So Gowrie's up there for me. In terms of actual food, I must say I do like the curry gravy at VCC, although that's changed in recent years. It used to just be the old curry from the night before that they called curry gravy the next day. So if you basically just ordered like curry gravy on its own, you'd basically get last night's curry, which was a cheat code. So I used to just order a piece of bread with curry gravy, and you just used to get a full curry at halfway house at BCC. And
that's brilliant.
So yeah, I mean those are my shout outs. I think Cotswold Downs, obviously I've got to give them a shout out. They've redone their halfway house, but what they have got right at Cotswold Downs, I think, is the buffet, which I said, at the outset was what I was championing. But looking at what the renovations that they're doing at the halfway house now at Cotswold, it looks like it's going to be pretty epic, separate from the bar. It was a bit awkward when you're sitting in the sort of bar area for the halfway house. I do like a halfway house that's distinct from the clubhouse. And yeah, that's obviously Princess Grant's a good one. Although I have been disappointed by. Sorry, there we go. Dogs are ready for the nappy change.
Is that your son?
Yeah, it sounds like my dogs.
Yeah, well, you touched on briefly. You touched on something there, which I think is super critical for me. The mark of a good halfway house is that it's a separate facility, and I don't like mingling with with the other commoners who just there with their kids having a breakfast at the golf course. I want to be treated specially, and there can be maybe one other group there who maybe also having their breakfast or whatever, but I'm quite a big fan of a separate kind of facility for the halfway house, but which would reflect in my choices, which we can touch on just now.
So is that him gone?
I think that is him getting rushed by the dogs. Oh gosh, yeah, geez, but interesting times for Mr. de Villiers. I'm very impressed with how much kind of extramurals he's getting in at the moment.
No, 100%. Got a paddle game tomorrow morning as well, so he's doing his best at the newborn stage. So we'll see if it can continue.
It's staying out the house. Yeah, he's doing well. Yeah, I certainly didn't. I had a pretty short rope, but maybe he's setting the benchmark. Yeah, so my following on from what Jacques was saying, this was, I must say, I do struggle sometimes. A lot of these halfway houses kind of merge in my brain. They kind of merge into one. I really had to rack my brain to think about each of the, specifically the actual venues. But when I did that, you do realize there are a couple of standouts in KZN. And I've kind of got I've got like a top 5 here, Carl. I don't know if you've got something similar. Maybe we can work our way down through them.
100%.
You can comment on it. So at number 5, I've got Mdoni. And I think this kind of breaks some of the rules probably that Jacques was referring to in terms of pre-orders, although they may or may not take a pre-order there. I can't remember.
No,
but
they don't.
Yeah, as far as I remember, you walk. Yeah, and again, it breaks my rule in terms of it being in a separate facility. But the thing is, you just can't beat the location of that clubhouse, and looking out over the sea. Essentially, you can order almost whatever you want on that menu. And I don't remember it being particularly slow. I think it was pretty quick to get kind of, whatever if it was a pie or food wise. Look, I'm not gonna. I think I'm rating it at number 5 more just because of its location. I think that's probably why I've got it there.
I had Mdoni on my list as well. Didn't make it into any kind of top category. I certainly had it on like a comment list because it's such a special golf course, especially for us KZNers. I don't think people outside of KZN really understand how special Mdoni is. It's just the location, the views, the course itself is beautiful. I mean, it could be manicured a little bit better. We know that, but that's part of the the lure of the South Coast itself. And I mean, my I had it on both lists, really, the good and the bad, because it's such a good location, such a special course, but it's there's nothing like you think Mdoni halfway house isn't really a halfway house. It's just the clubhouse. You walk in, you're standing at the bar trying to get a beer, and you're like, oh, okay, well, what else do they have? So I think it could be done like a little bit better as a halfway house, but I agree, it's still a special golf course, and because of that, it certainly comes into the conversation for me, definitely.
Yeah. No, as I say, it's probably being a bit cheeky. Strictly, there's probably a few other halfway houses that might feel a little hard done by because I've got it on there. But you just, as you say, it is such a hidden gem. I think for a lot of people who come to KZN and maybe play some of the other sort of maybe better well-known courses. I think for us in KZN, it's almost like a bit of a pilgrimage to Amdoni on an annual basis to go there. So yeah, we need to. I know you've punted that idea. We need to organise our annual trip there soon.
Trip to Mahendra Singh Dhoni.
What's on your what's on your list there on your top list?
I thought of halfway houses. I didn't really restrict it to KZN. I mean, I thought through the KZN ones, but I mean, I'm going to be I'm going to be quite a bit biased and mention my home course, Cotswold. Just because it works so seamlessly. You walk in, everything's there. You order, they put it on a plate straight away. You pay straight away. Like everything is so quick. Yes, it doesn't have its own little separate establishment, but I mean, usually most of the time on that side of the clubhouse, it's only golfers anyway. So I'm interested to see how they've renovated it, to see if it is going to be, its own separate little thing. But for me, very, very close to the top, I think I had it at number 3, was Cotswold Downs.
It's not on my list, but it did as you said, made my sort of comments or mentionable section. Purely and I'm interested to hear that they're building a slightly separate facility, because that would really tick that box for me. But purely from a service perspective, it's always been very quick and easy. So yeah, absolutely. And then the food's always good there. I can't fault it. They've always got a variety of different things. I can't isolate one particular meal, but they've always got a decent breakfast. And they've always got a couple of decent kind of options on the lunch side as well. So
I mean, I got to put it in context.
Can I give you a cheat code for Cotswold, the actual meals, Terence, while you're there? Is they give you an option between a small or a big plate. You always take the small plate because they just put the same amount of food on the small plate as the big plate.
Duly noted.
Can't get away from the soak. I was saying to give it some context, the reason why I got to Cotswold was almost by default because I thought of how shit the halfway house is at Kloof Country Club. That's basically how I got to it. I was like, okay, what place in KZN is slow? You have to order. You sitting in a Sunbox now, the new one, in a tiny little room. It's horrible. I mean, we talk about separate establishments for a halfway house. They've ticked that box, but they've ticked it in the worst possible way.
Sure, it's terrible. Hey, when we were playing there the other day, I mean, look, and it's not even really summer now, but we went in there, the aircon wasn't working, and we were basically in a little mini sauna. Look, the old one was kind of better because you could sit outside. I guess the paddle operation's taken that over now. But yeah, I agree. The new one is. But
even the old one, it was a better location in terms of where you sat. But I mean, how many times you go in there, you order, it takes forever, and then you're about to sit down, they come to you and they say, you can't sit, you've got to take your food with you. I mean, I've even had occasions where I've arrived there and they've packed away the tables and chairs so that you can't sit because they've stuffed up the tea time so badly,
Yeah.
So they're a shit show.
Definitely not on my top list.
No, at the bottom list.
I'm gonna chuck in my number 4 here, and I know this is gonna throw a bit of fuel on the fire, but I played here on Monday. Actually, is my last round of golf, and that's Princess Grant. And I must say, couldn't quite remember the halfway house. I haven't played there for a while. we were the first ball, 2-ball out, and we were the first people through there. But I must say, it's a very nice little facility there. It's in the corner of the clubhouse. You've got these beautiful, expansive views over the course, all kind of surrounded by glass, and very quick. Look, it's an order. They didn't, unless you're getting a pie or something. It's kind of order off the menu, but we had pretty decent food. My playing partner had a curry mince on toast with 2 poached eggs on top, which he rated as a 9 out of 10. I had the breakfast bun, which was, it was probably a 7 out of 10, but it was more than adequate. Very nice, seamless experience, and then a small little trot off to the 10th tee. So it was good enough to come in there in my top 5.
Well, we've heard some negative comments on that from JDV already. I mean, I grew up making missions to Princess Grant primarily to enjoy their curry gravy. I must agree with JDV that the curry gravy quality has gone down massively, if it's there at all. It used to be literally a 12 out of 10.
Wow.
And it was the reason why I took my father-in-law to play there once, and arrived at halfway very excited for what was to come, and there was no curry gravy, and that's happened a few times, which has been very disappointing. And even when I had it last time, it was kind of like, so like I agree with a lot of your points. It's separate, which is good. It's got nice views, but I must say they've gone down in my book because of
gone backwards.
Because of the curry gravy or the lack thereof. And I think JDV will probably back that up.
Yeah.
Maybe that you just hold them in such high esteem that it's just they're never going to be able to live up to those expectations again. Exactly. Almost mythical stuff for you. It sounds like it.
Exactly. And it was childhood memories and all of that. And you come back and it's just, I probably just shouldn't have played there again. It's like watching the new Lion King. You just don't do it.
Yeah. 100%.
It's almost how cheese snacks now don't quite have as much cheese on as they did when we were younger.
Exactly.
You just can't go and grab another packet of cheese snacks anymore. That's how I feel anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's fair enough. I've probably got some recency bias there. Okay, well you throw another one at me, Carl.
So I mean, I was going to be boring and go with what JDB had mentioned earlier, which was Champagne Sports. Again, another golf course that's very, very dear to my heart, having played it as a latte, and their food isn't anything to write home about. So that certainly doesn't get a tick of approval. But in terms of views, it's beautiful. That clubhouse on the sort of hillside overlooking the 9th green and fairway, and the first to your left and the 18th to your right. So for me, I'd have to say Champagne Sports.
It's got to be one of the most scenic clubhouses / bars of any golf course in KZN. I must say it's probably the photo that I get of a golf course the most when I have mates who are there and they're just letting you know that they're about to play golf. I get that photo of Champagne Sports, overlooking the sort of 1st and the 10th.
Yeah,
and just a little fuck you. This is where I am at the moment. Yeah,
a little dig. Yeah, no, I mean, not just the halfway house. I mean, the whole golf course it's such a lacquer golf course. I mean, I wish that they were a little bit more professional about how they run it, in terms of tee times and all of that. It's every time I played there, probably the last sort of 4 or 5 times I played there, it's been an absolute shit show in terms of getting stuck behind people and when people go off and all of that kind of thing. But it's a little bit like Amdoni. It's a special golf course,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. I must say I've had a similar experience with pace of play there. I think you can get unlucky if there's a group at the hotel. I got caught behind a group of at least 3-4 balls, of which of those 12 players, I'm certain only 2 of them had ever actually been on a golf course before. We were talking like almost an hour to play sort of 2 holes. It was really. yeah, I mean, geez, you can't fault that place. The photos that I got recently from my mate who was there, it's like at the moment it's autumn at the moment, so the trees are in color, and it's a magic spot. Okay, I'm gonna chuck one in here. This is probably this. Now that I look down at it on my piece of paper, I'm feeling like maybe I'm a bit embarrassed that I wrote this down. But Royal Durban, like I don't know why, but okay, for me it ticks the box of of like a separate little facility. But I also feel like there was a real efficiency with the way they do their like breakfasts and stuff there. The kitchen is right behind as far as I remember, right behind the till, and it felt like your sort of order went straight through to the chef. And kind of a couple minutes after you sat down at your table, you sort of had your 2 eggs and rashers of bacon and mushrooms kind of there. So it may have been a bit of an impulsive write down. I'm interested to hear if you guys have any takes on it in either direction. But
just to clarify, Terence, is Royal Durban one of your top 5 halfway houses in KZN? I'm just speechless about this, because it's like you're walking into the change room to go to the Royal Durban halfway house. Okay,
but remember, we need to clarify what we're marking these places on. Okay, so we, of course there's scenery and that, but we did have some specifics around the type of food you're getting, how quick it is, the efficiency of it. That all kind of factors into it. As I sit here desperately trying to back scramble out of my Royal Durban pick.
I don't know.
Listen, it's yeah. No, go. I've said my bits. No, I think I've dug my hole. You want to pull me out of it?
Carl, you can pull him out of it.
I can't pull him out of it because I've never played at Royal Durban, so I don't even know what you're talking about. So I'm very much impartial here.
Oh,
okay. Well,
I don't know if we might have to reconsider having you on this podcast if you haven't played at Royal Durban. Feels like a rite of passage. Yeah, Jacques, let me have it.
Terence, firstly, I think you're getting confused with the bar area at Royal Durban, which has a lot of character and is pretty old school, and and the actual halfway house, which, like I said, feels like a change room. It's sort of tucked away. There's no real windows and the rest of it. Yeah, there's some sliding doors, but if I recall correctly, it's also got that sort of rubber stuff that you walk on in showers. I think you walk on that to get in there.
That's comfortable. That comfortable stuff to walk on.
Yeah, for those who still wear metal marks on their food. Look, I mean, the food's okay. I mean, I've never been excited to go eat at Royal Durban halfway house. It's acceptable. I mean, like I said, I think the food is fun. I certainly don't think the actual facility pushes it into the top 5 in KZN. I mean, are you going to compare it to Gowrie, Champagne Sports, Zimbali, Durban Country Club, Mhlali, even Amdoni, Selborne? I mean, all of those are better than Royal Durban's halfway house.
Well,
the bar you might have an argument, but not the halfway house.
Tell us how you really feel, Jacques. Tell us how you really feel.
Listen, I'll take all the other ones, but Durban Country Club, you can't try and sell me on that. And when I'm saying DCC, I'm talking about that pathetic little iron caddy shack that they have out by the 10th tee, which is it looks like it sort of belongs on a construction site. That architecture more than on a historical course, but. I'll take all the other abuse, but don't throw the DCC halfway house in there at me, please.
Also, I'm going to be a little bit different there. I'm not going to back DCC for their halfway house, but in terms of being different to all the others and having their halfway house at the halfway mark of the golf course, which is not back at the first tee, there's something, I don't know, a little bit, magical about that for me.
Nostalgic.
Nothing to write home about. If you're teeing off on the 10th, it's obviously problematic to try and get your car back there and all of that kind of stuff. I do agree it's a bit construction site-y, but there's something about it. Not top 5 stuff, but there is something about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of when you look at sort of the full tradition. I mean, if you look at St Andrews, they used to just have in Scotland, on the old course, they just had like almost just like a beer cart that was out, because there was no, it's not like you played 9 back towards the clubhouse, you were out, it was out and in, and that's kind of where it comes from. When you see on our scorecards now, they talk about the out and the in. That's very much what it was about. So I agree with you. I'm a bit of a sucker for that as well. Listen, I hope that building gets demolished now in their new renovation that they're doing, and something maybe a little bit more charming in line with the architecture of the clubhouse gets constructed. Perhaps with less of like a sauna kind of feel. Also, I'm sure I've got numerous cases of Jippo guts from the breakfast there, but that's aside. Okay, no, Jacques, I'll take the slander there. Listen, it was a little bit of as I said, it was a bit impulsive. Why don't you throw something at me, Jacques? What have you got?
The other one I don't know if you guys mentioned was Boschuk. Actually, has a really a nice setup for halfway as well. Donate on Boschuk just because you don't like the course, Hoffman.
I can't stand Boschuk.
The halfway house is like, I actually also like the course, but their halfway house is cool. You sit out there, you ride on the first tee, as well as the 9th tee. Sorry, I mean the 10th tee. They're the same tee.
And you're on the 9th and 18th green. Yeah.
But the halfway house is cool. It's efficient. It's it's open.
But it's just the restaurant, right? It's not like a separate facility.
No, I mean, I think they earmark some of the tables in the restaurant as a halfway house.
Yeah.
Yes, you're trying to sell it hard.
Yeah. Listen, I love Boschuk. I love that golf course. I've had some really good experiences there. But yeah, it wasn't just for me. It's a bar / restaurant from a halfway house perspective.
Agreed.
But yeah, I mean, you can't beat the setting is very nice. And the one thing I will say there is I do have memories of when we were playing in a big group of 4 balls. You're sort of teeing off, and your mates who are like chowing the halfway par feel like they're literally like 2 meters behind you, kind of like ribbing you while you're about to swing. So there is a bit of a fierce factor there, which would maybe pump it up above a couple of other courses.
Yeah, Terence, I mean, like I said, I mean, just to reiterate in no particular order, I mean, my top 5 would be Champagne, Gowrie, VCC, Cotswold, and in 5th place, I will put in Princess Grant. Those would be my top 5.
Okay.
I think we all of those.
Yeah, we took those off. The only other one I have on my list is Zimbali.
Yeah, that's a good.
Now again, this ticks the box that you were talking about, Carl, which is it's a separate, completely. Okay, look at you. It's not way out on the course. You are, you are closer to where the clubhouse is, but it certainly isn't anywhere near the clubhouse. It's in fact, completely its own building. And the one thing there, they've got unbelievable pars. The Zimbali pars are fairly well known. And just a very neat little efficient service that you get there in a pretty decent setting. I mean, you can generally sit inside there because it's normally pretty hot, but you can also sit outside and you're sort of in the bit of a mini forest setting. It's the Zimbali halfway house is very, very decent.
Yeah, you sold me on that one. Okay, I'm going to change my order. So I've got in no particular order Champagne, Gowrie, Cotswold. Then I've got to put Zimbali, so it's between Princess Grants and BCC. I'm going to go with Princess Grants. BCC are lekker with their curry gravy and pies, but yeah, I mean, I think it's got some Kloof Country Club whiffs in terms of it being and some Royal Durban whiffs of being sort of tucked away, and they're like, what spare room do we have to make into a halfway house, instead of it being a sort of standalone feature.
It's also full of people from Pietermaritzburg.
It's interesting you say Gowrie. I mean, I love that clubhouse, and I think, look, on a nice day, you can sit outside there, and I mean, the scenery is hard to beat. it doesn't. I suppose they have a separate-ish facility for your orders, and you can't beat the efficiency. As you say, you place your order on the first tee. I must say, I've been caught out by that a couple of times, being a little bit hungover on that first tee and sort of, not necessarily ordering maybe what I felt like by the time I got to the eighth tee. But that's on me. It's interesting because from what I understand now with the new holes that they're building there, I think they're losing the ninth hole. The ninth hole is disappearing at Gowrie, and from what I understand, the halfway house is actually going to be like way out on the course.
So it'll be epic.
That'll tick your box there, Hoff.
So we've got a potential number one at Gowrie if depending on how they do it. And I suppose that goes into what they're trying to do with being that sort of Scottish linksy vibe at Gowrie. Having, as you mentioned, that's sort of where halfway began at St Andrews, having that sort of a halfway house fits into that aesthetic.
Yeah, it would be lekker if they just had a little pie, like a pie shack with you get like a dob of sherry or something, and like you sort of on your way,
What they should actually do, Terence, is just while DCC is doing their renovations, just put their container onto a truck and drive it through to Gowrie.
No, I think that thing's rusted. I don't think it'll make it.
I must say, I think Gowrie has scarred me so badly from how that golf course has hurt me that I hear what you're saying, but I have no love for Gowrie. I've got no love for Gowrie, VCC, sure. Boschhoek, or pretty much anything that side of Hillcrest.
Wow.
Yeah, I struggle with those guys, but I think that's maybe a bit harsh because of how badly I've always played there. To take that out on their halfway houses, but it is what it is.
Well, listen, you can always be reborn, and the only way to do that is for us to go up there and maybe just walk you through that experience again.
Words out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And particularly often I don't want to have basically 4 rumblers in a row because we lost everything like the last time I think we played Gowrie.
My memories of the Gowrie halfway house was just rumblers and dog licenses,
Okay.
So I'd probably
shame. Yeah, I do remember that. That was quite sad, but also amusing to watch.
Yeah, lost the front 9, the back 9 in the day. But what I was going to say is just to put my sort of 2 cents in is it's quite. I don't even have a top 5 in KZN. I don't think they're good enough to make a top 5, to be honest. I've got a top 3, which is Champagne Sports, Cotswold, and Zimbali. But it's quite interesting comparing them to some of the really good ones around the country, and you guys are probably better placed to comment on it than me because you probably played more of the better golf courses around the country, especially you, Jacques. But I mean, the one that I sort of benchmark against, which I have played, is Serengeti, which had the most insane halfway house experience. I mean, talking about the quality of food, having beers in the bloody dressing rooms, and everything was ready on your plate at the table when you arrive. It was just the most unbelievable experience. I can't remember if they had a separate establishment for their halfway house. It was a good few years ago now, but it was such a benchmark for me, and none of the KZN halfway houses come anywhere near. So I can't even imagine what something like Pearl Valley or Ehrenvale or one of those Fan Court must be like.
Yeah, I think we probably need a whole separate discussion on our kind of South African top, because I completely agree with you. I think the KZN halfway houses are fairly low down the order on the benchmark. But then agree, Jacques.
At the same time, I mean, you've also got to look at what you're paying for. I mean, KZN, some of the more expensive rounds you're ever going to play in KZN are like $600. Those sorts of Blair Athol, Leopard Creek, Pearl Valley, Serengeti, Stain Cities, those sorts of places, you're paying like 1,200 Rand. And often then your halfway house is, part of that experience. So no, I don't think that the KZN courses can hold a candle to to some of those ones. Like, I mean, even Samola, like I mentioned, was an amazing halfway house experience. Leopard Creek was something out of this world. It felt like a sort of English tea that you'd have at the oyster box. Like I said, Blair Athol was also absolutely nuts. But I think those are different types of golf experiences, where you sort of immersing yourself in like luxury and you're paying for it. Whereas I think KZN, the golfing landscape in KZN is not trying to do that, which I appreciate, and that's why you do appreciate like a Royal Durban, fair. And I don't think you can even compare like a Royal Durban to Blair Athol.
Geez, I have big regrets about my Royal Durban edition. I remember there being some bloody nice pictures on the wall at Royal Durban. I tell you that, some nice portraits.
Well, they had to have some nice pictures because there are no bloody windows.
Yeah, listen, what you were saying now, I think is very true in terms of what the KZN courses are trying to project. I think most of the courses are fairly just kind of honest local courses, which obviously have a bit of they have a bit of local and regional tourism, but they're not trying to be necessarily they're not trying to compete with the courses along the Garden Route or the Sun Cities. It was quite interesting that none of us brought up any courses down along the south coast. I did have what. Apart from Mdoni, yeah, sorry. I did have the Wild Coast,
the Wild Coast
on my list.
South Broom, but I mean,
yeah,
I don't think any of those three houses. I mean, Wild Coast got a wild view, but I mean, again, it's just the halfway house is doubles up as a bar. I don't think it's a standalone. I think you wait quite a long time for food. If I remember the last time I was at Wild Coast,
it was terrible when we were there for the Durandalman tour, Jacques. It was horrible.
San Lemier's got a nice setup. There's nothing wrong with their halfway house. Again, I've waited ages for food at San Lemier, so it's not a quick buffet.
It's interesting because they're the only KZN course that was in this top 10 that list that those guys put out online. I just remember they had those like little mini bunny chows there at San Lemier. That was the only kind of memory I had. I don't remember the halfway house being particularly amazing, but I don't know. Maybe
it's lekker. I mean, there's nothing wrong with San Lam. It's a cool experience, but I mean, it's not like a champagne standout. And then South Broom again.
South Broom's got potential. It's got big potential. It's just old, really old.
Well, but the halfway house you also like in a weird like boxy room.
That's what I'm saying. It's got potential with like a little bit of a view. It's got its own little establishment. You go around to get a pie and that. It's not slow. Well, I don't remember it slow, but it's like you know that you're in somewhere that hasn't been renovated for like 40 years.
As you were talking, I was just getting these visual memories of it back. I couldn't quite picture it, but I see it perfectly now.
And then the last one is Sheppy, which seems like it's a separate tuck shop that sort of runs the halfway house there. I didn't know if it was part of the golf club or if someone had just set up a tuck shop at Sheppy to sell some horse rolls at halfway. But lekker food. Let me not sell them too far short. The Sheppy food was unbelievably good.
It's interesting, and we're probably close to wrapping up now. But having played like a little bit of golf overseas and that, where halfway houses are not a big thing at all. Certainly where I was in Canada, we you generally never stopped after 9 holes. They did have beverage carts and which had like food and stuff on them, but you were generally encouraged to kind of keep moving through the round. It's interesting how much they are sort of a part of our fabric here in South African golf. I can't think of too many places where you sort of aren't really encouraged to stop in South Africa. I might be missing some, but what is your
Creek Country Club? You're not encouraged to stop. I think off earlier.
Yeah, well, you also don't really want to stop unless you want to lose.
That's the main thing. You even if you do want to stop, you can't, but you don't actually want to.
I must say, Kloof for me has just become a golf day venue. I battle to think of it as a normal golf course anymore. It's just a place where you play scramble.
But I mean,
scramble.
halfway house is terrible. You feel like a dog in a car. You know, you're waiting for the waiter to like crack a window.
and what is your briefly? What is your what are your guys' sort of halfway house strategies when you go in? Do you have I mean, does it depend on the time of day? Do you have a particular like order that you always put in regardless? Like, do you always crack something to eat, or are you maybe looking at, you know, maybe just sitting back with a beverage? What is your sort of strategy on that front?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in there. I've got very much an anti-curry strategy at halfway, which is quite weird because if there's curry gravy, then I'll go for it. So a very contradictory strategy there. But there's just something about a pie at a halfway house that even if I tell myself I'm not going to have a pie at halfway, I'll generally end up having a pie at halfway, whether it's breakfast, lunch, whatever it is. That's kind of a go-to. Although the reason why I like Cotswold so much is, you know, you're not ordering. So you sort of get there and it's, okay, what's there? And you've only got 2 or 3 options. So it's, you know, bang, bang, bang. I actually prefer that rather than standing and looking at a board and you know, deciding whether you want a pie or, you know, a burger or something like that. So I like having the strategy taken away from me so that I can't order a pie.
Yeah, I agree with that. I quite like having if there's a buffet type of vibe. That's best case scenario for me. I'd say very, very seldom, probably 10% of the time, do I actually not kind of get anything to eat. It's very habitual. It almost always impacts the way that I play, either positively or negatively. I don't know whether that is necessarily anything to do with the food or whether it's just the mental break. JDV?
I normally go for a wrap if it's a sort of a la carte. I used to back in the day have as I mentioned, when I used to play at VCC every weekend, was a pie and that curry gravy, which was just last night's curry, and then I'd order a piece of white bread afterwards. And bearing in mind, we went off at like the 6 o'clock tea time, so I was eating a pie, curry gravy, and a piece of white bread, and generally a beer at about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. So probably wasn't great for my health. So I've tried to turn that strategy around a bit, and
probably definitely.
So now it's generally a wrap, and depending on how my round is going, it doesn't really matter what time of the day it is, because I don't think time matters on the golf course. What time of the day it is, I'll probably crack a beer. If it's going really well, I'll crack a beer to calm the nerves, or if it's going absolutely terribly, I'll crack a beer because you've got
2 beers.
You've got to change something, and if it's going okay, then I might have a coffee.
But your strategy is quite interesting, JDV, because it's always a wrap, and then pretty much the pork sausage off Narrow's plate, the bacon off my plate, and by the end of it, you get like a sauce.
Yeah, I'm like, well, how am I going to wrap up all the sauce that came out of my wrap if I don't take some of your chips?
I'm going to be healthy and have this salad wrap, and then eat everyone else's food.
It's a winning strategy.
I must say the wraps never jump out at me as being the most delicious looking things that I want to get. It's probably way down at the bottom of my list.
Never ever see me having a wrap on a golf course.
Yeah. As you say, time.
You go without the onion rings at Spur. You just don't do it.
Yeah. If time doesn't exist on golf course, then I think calories don't exist on the golf course either. I think it's it's just like that magical zone where you can, regardless of the time of day, you can, have whatever your heart desires or whatever may stop your heart.
Sounds like
points on the back line.
Existed for a long time for Jacques and PMB.
It did. There were some serious calories going into the body. I mean, I could have run a marathon after that halfway house, and I still wouldn't have got rid of those calories.
Some of your best golf though in that era of your life. So maybe a bit of a Cole Peterson. Maybe you should be looking to pack the pounds back on.
Well, I mean, if you look at Appy Barnrats, I think he's got the same strategy at halfway.
Yeah. No, well, Cole Peterson, Appy Barnrat, I mean, 2 quality golfers. Take your pick.
John Daly. I mean, it might explain why your swing seems to have much more flexibility and movement in it now, Jacques.
Yeah, I mean that's why I can't keep the arms close to the body anymore. It's sort of all over the show. It's like a baby elephant with its new trunk. You know, it doesn't know what to do with its arms anymore. It's just space.
Yeah, well, I mean, the chubby baby elephants can only move their trunk so far, so the swing is sort of compact. You know, when you've got more flexibility now, it's much easier to kind of get yourself in a bit of a tangle. So yeah, I don't know. There might be something to be said for easing off on the wraps.
So I was going to say, the takeaway from this is that I need to go back to the curry gravy pie and a piece of white bread to mop it up with a beer.
100%.
Listen, I don't give. But I think from a golf perspective, that might from Carl suggesting there may be some historical evidence that there was some improvement in the game with that diet. So you do as you see fit.
I'll test it out and let you know what the results are.
Can be our local Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah, I'm sure he's a big beer and curry gravy connoisseur, I think.
Although he's slimmed down big time now, eh? Jeepers.
No, that's nice.
Like super thin, super fat, and then like in between. It's quite impressive. Especially for you being on the Crushers, you must be super proud.
I'd like to see him. Yeah, I'd like to see him contending in one of these tournaments. I'm not sure if his head's really in it.
Yeah, agreed.
But guys, this has been entertaining. I look forward to our next random topic. It may be something to do with halfway houses or the ranking of curry gravy across the country. That might be quite an interesting discussion to have.
Very interesting.
We are heading towards 2 weeks away is the PGA Championship, so that's something else to start keeping an eye on. Definitely looking forward to the build up to that. Otherwise, hopefully, have you guys got any golf lined up in the next week or so?
I don't, but where are you playing on that golf day, Jacques? On the 19th. Where is that?
That's at Royal.
Okay. Well, but you'll be really looking forward to the halfway house.
I am playing in that Cotswold, but I will give you a report back on the halfway house at Royal, and I will take back some of my takes once I've re-inspected it.
And then can I just again for the record just say that we seriously need to look at the calendar to do a full Mahendra Singh Dhoni review. Golf course, get the drone up, halfway house, curry gravy, everything, and do a proper little report back so we can share the hidden gem with all of our listeners, which is
our nine listeners. Yeah. Absolutely, Carl. Please send us a diary date.
Cool.
I'm in, and Jacques, I would just ask that you go with fresh eyes to the Royal Durban halfway house when you get that chance.
Noted.
Awesome, gents. Nice to catch up. We'll chat in the next probably the next 2 weeks as a bit of a. I think the next time we'll chat will be a little preview to the PGA Champs.
Sounds good.
Like it, gents. Was awesome.